Welcome to GMSONIC, the only show you need to succeed this trading season. Today we are investigating illegal border crossings into the Sonic network and what you and I can do to get those numbers up. So we brought in resident immigration expert on the Sonic network, Fierydev, a Mead Madness winner and one of the most notorious devs in the entire ecosystem. So stay tuned so we can show you how you too can be a winner. But first, Dracula, we got to talk, dude. I talk a little bit about this video. We had an anime girl explaining to us how to steal an F-15.
Yeah, I mean it's worth holding on to, especially in this potential economic meltdown from the U.S. tariffs on everything.
You need to keep all avenues of revenue generation open. Okay?
Yeah.
If it comes down to it, you need to break into a understaffed military base and steal an F-18. You got to do what you got to do.
I don't think it hurts to have the knowledge. You know what I mean? You need to have all the avenues open. So hop in one of those bad boys, fly over to Russia, make you some rubles. You know what I'm saying?
We got Fiery in the back. We should bring him up, and then we should get into charts. Okay?
Sure. So, hey, good morning, Fiery.
Hello, hey guys, it's a pleasure to be here.
Hey,
thanks for joining us. Yeah,
you mentioned an F-16, F-18, and I mean you would need some bombs, right? So whom would you rather call?
That's right, dude. The F-bomb guy himself, dude.
Yeah, that's why we brought you on to figure this out. So
we're doing some dangerous talk this morning. You notice that guy? We're getting something dangerously. The feds are watching.
Well, yeah. At least no one is at the airport at the moment.
Hey, that's true. Yeah. So
that's next week.
Nobody's on a base. Nobody's at an airport.
would have been the worst time to hold the live stream with the lead guy behind F-bomb. Imagine you're at the lounge or outside the plane, and the guys are screaming F-bomb.
Yeah.
You're not making it to the summit, brother.
No, I don't think so.
When you go to conferences, is that what happens? People line up and they scream F-bomb, F-bomb as you walk in.
Yeah, they see him coming down the hall and they just start screaming F-bomb basically. So
wow, I can't wait to see this. Are you coming to Vienna, Fiery?
Oh yeah, most certainly. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I remember the last time the Phantom conference was in 2021. So this is the next event after that, and I'm really excited, especially with how huge things are turning out.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. I'm excited, too. It seems like there's going to be a lot of opportunity. But, hey, for people who don't know, can you tell us quickly who you are, Fiery? I mean, I know you. Dracula knows you. Most people probably do. For those who don't.
So it's been a rather long journey in the crypto ecosystem. I started with mining a long time back. My foray into Phantom came in 2019 when I invested in the ICO and bought it as a token on the ETH chain. So when Genesis happened, I was very excited to migrate my tokens to the mainnet. And at that point, I was learning how to run validators, actually. So Phantom was the one chain which I was really passionate about because I was following Andre and what he was building. So that's the one node I set up, and I started as a validator on Phantom. Being early on the chain gave me full blown exposure to everything being built on the chain, and I experienced all the speed firsthand, both from the dApp sides as well as running a node. So it has been my largest pleasure, most rewarding thing in life to be a part of this ecosystem, to have seen it grow from infancy, from when Phantom was a 5 million market cap token, to have tokens of Texas in billions at one point.
Yeah.
And with Andre coming out with new stuff, bro, I'm all excited about it. So everything I have built or contributed to I've aimed to have its home based on Phantom and now Sonic. So the DAO, which I'm currently managing, all the operations, all the treasury, POL, we try and aim to bring it all back to Phantom or Sonic. Sorry, I'm just so used to Phantom. But yeah, so it's home for us, and that's how this whole thing started.
Right on. So you're kind of like what they call like an OG then, right, Dracula, from the beginning?
A real OG.
From the ICO, dude. From
they're the ICO.
That's crazy. So, what you mentioned your projects you built. So you got the DAO, and you have F-bomb, and you have the Fiery token. So could you just quickly, what are these? How do they work together?
So it's a funny story because I never wanted to actually have my own project or token to run or to manage. And yeah, it's just a funny turn of events where it just kept on happening. So now this is like when this is now Phantom is very young and early, right? So the first token to have ever been created on the chain was Bomb, and it started as random meme token, and the LP was added, and like we were all having so much fun back in that day. I remember it was the sole reason why many of us were using Sushi Swap, and we also got the ICE airdrop from Popsicle Finance primarily because of that. So a few weeks later, when the original developer, the guy who deployed Bomb, he just pulled all liquidity and rugged it, and we were all heartbroken back then. So a week passed, and for me, Fatim had already always been my home, and to see the first token which ever existed on the chain to die as a rug, I kind of took it personally. I may have had something too much to drink that night. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just buy the token, add LP, buy back, add LP, and that's how the first community takeover started.
Wow.
So yeah, and now it's the primary lead utility token behind MCLB DAO, highly deflationary store of value. So, like after I took over Bomb, nearly a year later, I would say a different organization was collapsing and the team was soft drugging. Many of us fondly still remember it as Steak.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I
so
remember.
my DAO members were the largest holders, and once we realized what was happening, we kind of held a community vote, governance vote, and did a community takeover. And later on, after a lot of reworking, I renamed that organization to Millennium Club DAO and renamed the credit token to MCLB. So these were both community takeovers, not initially planned or intended per se. So
Dude.
lastly, for the Fury token, I never actually started it. Someone from the community started it. Then like there's this validator Phantom India. He bought this young kid bought, and they're like, hey, it's your name. I'm like, okay, fine. I bought a big bunch, so my DAO members followed through. And like I'm like, hey guys, I'm not taking another token on. I have too much already. I'm like wanted to focus on F-bomb, but MCLB just happened. So I managed to find synergy between the two, but to find it with a third was very hard. So we actually have a community run team from within the DAO who are managing the Fiery token and all the endeavors. The entire efforts behind that winning third position goes to the team behind it. I thank Sunfire, Blartoads, CatDad. These guys are the real people, along with community like Ferox and so many MCLB members. So they're ones who made it through for Fury. I was just like sitting by.
So
So
it's kind of like, isn't it like the hoop situation was similar? Like,
Yeah, but Hoops kind of did buy OTC buy a large part of the supply, so that kind of did help in managing a project to launch, maintain POL, and just run things. We had was like 45% of the supply bought, so it was like a lot of our supply out there in the wild to
mhm.
manage that, along with having one of the deepest LP as per our market cap and ratio. So that's just how we won, I think.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you got a lot of goodwill with the community built up, right? I mean, you're taking over these community tokens that have, dude, the first one, the first CTO on Phantom. So I mean, it's great
helping
to
all the
have you.
orphans,
Yeah, dude, Fire's
taking in
literally,
all the orphans.
dude, he's saving the hood, dude.
Yeah.
He's one of those OGs that will stop you on the corner and say, "Hey, stay away from drugs, kids," and give you like a school. It's like, Um, so yeah, man, that's awesome. So I mean, I guess let's get a plug here. So if anyone's interested in what you're working on, Fiery, where would you direct them to go? You got a website, Discord?
Yeah, like mclb.org. Just reach out in our Discord. That's the best place. We are very active with our governance roles, with the token gated governance roles active on Discord. So there we offer them with more privileged information, which we are acting upon for the DAO.
Mm-hmm. So
So you get
that's
the
awesome.
alpha.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I want to
Those
point
so
out
cool.
this guy's been through some shit, dog. You've heard if you've heard been paying attention. This is one of the few DAOs who've survived all the pain and suffering of the last 4 or 5 years. So
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we were kind of discussing that last episode, how like the DAO and governance structure of Ethereum, it's kind of like, it's probably time for an overhaul because typically it's just not, the system just doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, you guys have managed to keep the DAO together, keep a lot of members, keep it interesting. So congrats on that. And also, we were talking before the show. You mentioned there was like a Telegram group for people going to Vienna, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So in case anyone is heading to the Sonic Summit, I would highly recommend to reach out in our Discord or in the Telegram group for GMSONIC or any place where you can find us. We'll guide
Yeah,
you.
because I'm seeing that. A good bit. There's all kinds of. There's so many group chats and groups and everything else. But I've seen that several times where people are like, "Hey, like, is anybody going? And is there like a group or whatever?"
Exactly.
So,
It's really hard to like coordinate, especially because it's a new country for everyone, or at least most of the people. So like we're not really sure how to or where to travel, where to have a cup of coffee, maybe. Although I would give full kudos and credits to the Sonic Labs for having this very clearly put out on the website. Like the summit website, it has very clear tabs mentioning good places to eat, coffee, food, conference. So that's a very helpful map to plan.
Wait, those were just suggestions from the labs. I thought they were taking me to those places. I thought
you go to that coffee shop and you tell them that it's on Sonic, right? You're on the.
Yeah, I thought when I got off the plane, the assistant was gonna be waiting there with the limo and like the card, and he was gonna say,
you're on the retain. Just tell them you're on the retainer. You just let them know any restaurant, any coffee shop, bar. You just say it's on the Sonic tab. You should know what I'm talking about. Just put a little check mark there.
Yeah, and just walk out, and then they'll for sure someone be waiting for you at the airport on the way back.
And then go out into the street and yell F-bomb. I have an F-bomb. So
okay, this is gonna be a good trip. I'm glad it's all inclusive.
It's all inclusive, man.
Hell yeah!
But
now, go ahead, Drac.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. Speaking of, if you were trying to, let's see how this works. If you're trying to book an all-inclusive trip, how about that Bitcoin close over the weekend?
Somebody's doing the raping. Well, who's doing the raping?
Yeah,
baby.
Now, I said on Friday, I was like, these are the weekly candles, and I was like, Friday, I said it's a very important close because we were just finally going up against that like recent resistance, and we closed over it. So not a super impressive candle so far, but I will take it. You know what I mean? Like that was important as we closed above it. Hopefully we can continue to maintain here in like the mid 90s. I mean, the way I see it is like you get to 94 or 95K on Bitcoin, the bulls just aren't going to be able to stand it. They're going to push this thing back over 100. Whether it gets slapped down a time or two, surely to happen. But to me, that was like a very to just have like a really clean weekly close there. That's pretty bullish to me. That's a good feeling.
Ray Dalio can kick rocks and he can pound sand, dude. Okay. Well, I guess he wasn't very negative on Bitcoin, so I don't know why I'm taking swipes at Ray Dalio. But yeah, I mean, surprisingly strong, right? I'm actually very surprised by the resilience of the crypto markets in general. Everything seems to have been pretty strong this week. Going into this week, I was kind of scared. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable here in my safe space, GMSONIC. I was a little worried coming into this week, Dracula. I was like, like before this candle, it was like we just barely kissed above 95.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, to break it, to break it and close above it, I would say is pretty bullish. Yeah, especially with what's happening in the macro. Also reclaimed above this moving average. So I don't know. I think that we're gonna have to see what comes next. I mean, typically, you know, when you have like stuff like this, you would probably kind of tap it, then get smacked down. So I wouldn't be surprised to, you know, like I said, this is gonna be a very big battleground in terms of, you know, like bears are not going to want us to break 100. Obviously, bulls want us to. Bears would probably rather us stay in, you know, this area here, like low, like upper mid 70s to, you know, upper 80s, somewhere around there. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's kind of uncharted territory since we're very close to like the recent all-time high. So we're gonna have to see what happens. Maybe we get some like good macro news and it really just like pops this thing up to a new all-time high, but we're gonna have to see.
Yeah, I am interested in seeing. I was trying to find. Okay, yeah, it was ARK Invest. I just wanted to point out: are we still on track to hit ARK Invest's estimate for Bitcoin to reach 2.4 million by 2030? Dracula, you think?
I don't know. I think 2 million a Bitcoin is pretty aggressive, but I don't know the way these.
That makes Sailor the richest man to have ever lived.
Oh,
maybe?
for sure.
He'd be
But
richer than King Solomon at that rate.
MBK says that's a moon boy number. Yeah, I would say it's a little moon boyish.
That's
you know,
Captain ARK.
It is always interesting to me when I see these like funds and everything else kind of like lay out there, like, you know, here's like our targets and predictions. And I think that's a whole game in itself. But I don't know. What do you think, Fire? You think $2 million of Bitcoin in like 5 years? You think it's possible?
Seems a little fast. Like
a little fast, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a little too many zeros in there.
I think they could make it the official currency of like the US and it still wouldn't be 2 million a Bitcoin. That's just that's kind of crazy.
If it became the official currency of the US, it would start crashing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also true. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin chart looks great. Macro,
if it becomes the US currency, Ethereum will start going up.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Don't even say that. Ethereum has been going up a little bit.
Has it?
I mean,
has it?
Yeah, it's like, look at that. Yeah, it's bounce. Yeah, something happened.
They got a little bounce there. That was probably just from Vitalik saying like, "Hey, we're gonna like do some work on the actual L1 and not focus on the L2s as much."
Vitalik said, "I'm going to stop going to the monkey gardens or whatever fucking random adventure he's going on this week." Mm-hmm. Vitalik was living like iShow speed. You notice that? You know how you'd see iShow speed? I don't know if you ever see it. Yeah. Whenever I stream, every time I see him on my timeline, he's going on some crazy adventure. He's the president of Brazil for a day, or he's meeting ancient kung fu masters in China. I'm not making this show. This shit I actually
No, it's true. It's always like, hey, what's he doing today? It's a picture of him on a lake with some monks. And it's like, I don't know the context of this, but very nice. Okay.
And then like next week he's in Norway, like diving into volcanoes or something. But Vitalik would be the same. Half the time when I'd see him, he'd be like, I don't know, donating money to like a capybara exhibit. And he'd be like, this is what Ethereum's all about. Is helping
money well spent. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's refreshing to see him, you know, do something else.
Yeah, really. Like work on Ethereum. That's nice to see.
Wait, so this is the daily chart. I guess I got to get up the hourly because the daily chart looks so much sexier, dude.
Yeah, I switched. I usually do the daily on S. We can look at the hourly. No, we'll do 4 hours. How about that little compromise? All right. Yeah, 4 hour looks a little nicer than the daily. Mm-hmm. You know, Sonic is also broken above 50 cents, holding above 50 cents, which we've, discussed so many times that whether it was Fantom or Sonic, 50 cents is just like it's always been such a battleground where it's like, if we get smacked down from 50 cents, it's usually pretty ugly. If we can hold above, that means, we're hopefully beginning our march back towards $1 territory. S still, performing pretty well in comparison to like other alts and exotics and all that. Still showing a lot of strength in terms of obviously like inflows and volume and everything else. So what do you think, Fire? You like where like Sonic's heading right now? Do you think we're like gonna eventually get back to $1, or are we like gonna crab here for a while?
I'm terrible at charts, but having said that, I'm no way not bullish going into the Sonic Summit, especially with Andre cooking. So, like, I remember there were not rumors, actually, he just literally said it out himself about the algo stable. So, like, now the
Yeah.
rumors were the algo stable would somehow be linked to staked S primarily because it would somehow use the staking interest rate to generate additional yield. So I'm super excited to see how it works, and I'm more excited for like what sort of impact does it have on the ecosystem, especially the dexes with the new stable, and beats with not just dex but the LST, which would then also be involved. So it's so complicated that I don't really want to understand it till Andre just releases it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they for a minute there they were kind of like showing tests, and they were saying, hey, we've like done these like simulations with like so much volume and so much liquidity and it's still working. Interested to see if that like finally gets pushed out. And then of course we have other primitives that have been in the works for a while. So yeah, wouldn't that be nice if we roll in the Sonic Summit and something gets leaked or teased or even dropped? You know what I mean? That would be pretty nice.
Wow, that would be crazy. I wasn't even thinking about that, but if that does happen, that's gonna be wild. Now I got to pack my laptop and my Trezor. Wow, that's crazy. Hope it doesn't get taken at the airport. No, that's really interesting. And the algorithmic stables, has he released a lot of information about it yet? I haven't seen anything other than he just said he's.
There was like a pretty good bit of information that he was kind of leaking there for a minute. Nothing like anyone I don't think is like seen in the wild, but I think they were still kind of teetering on like, should they drop it or not? But I think someone could correct me here if I'm wrong, but I think last time he spoke on it, it was kind of like, all right, screw it. Like, we're going to do it. So would love to see that for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm stoked. I'm already percolating some ideas on like, what could I do with Andre's stable, an algorithmic stable? Because algorithmic stable coins, they draw a lot of attention generally, from what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, obviously controversial, like in the sense of last run, last bull market or whatever you want to call it. Algo pegged everything was kind of the thing, and a lot of them had what they refer to as death spirals. So very risky. It's like it can make a lot of money if it works. But there is like, usually considered like, they're usually considered pretty risky at this point, like after last run, when we had so many algo stables spiral out and die, we shifted to more of like an over collateralized model. But hey, I would love to see somebody work that out. If anybody can work it out, it's, Andre and the Sonic devs and everybody else that, would be helping with it. So yeah, I would love to see that, of course. I think, like I said, they one of the things he did show was kind of like, all right, like check out this simulation with like all of this liquidity and all this volume, and it's still holding peg. So I don't know. It'd be really interesting to see.
Hell yeah. I'm stoked. Now, I also want to point out on this chart here. Now, I've seen some TA cheat sheets here. That looks like a rising head and shoulders, which, if you know, is great for dandruff, dude.
Yeah, I mean, if you, depending on like what kind of TA you're into, you got kind of like a rising thing going on here. Yeah, it looks like you got a head and shoulders going on. I'm trying to see. I got a fun little. Well, it's not on this chart, but it'll kind of like find if there's any like drawing patterns to be found. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot going on here. I think that everyone's just a little cautious, because we're not used to seeing the macro being down, but crypto having money flow. Like I said, that was kind of more of like a thing of the past where money would actually flow into crypto when bad things were happening with the dollar and everything else. But like I said, over these last couple of years, especially with the ETFs, it just kind of felt like Bitcoin was just going to follow the stock market, basically. So I don't know, like we're kind of in like a, Bitcoin's like marching back to maybe making a new all-time high. Money seems to be flowing in, but it's like they're still, like, to me at least, they're still kind of just like this, I don't know, maybe it's too good to be true kind of feeling or something. Just because, I mean, the macro has like dictated a lot of what's happening in the crypto market. One thing I thought we could look at is basically like what's been happening on Sonic in terms of inflows. From our very own Luis, he had a little post here. I think it was last night or yesterday evening or somewhere around there. Showing that, last 24 hours, Sonic had top net flows. And that's even compared to Base, Solana, just about everything. But what I thought would be nice to look at is thanks to D-Bridge, they have like some really nice like analytics you can look at. So what I've set here is, this is also yesterday basically, because
they're just trying to find a better life, you know what I mean?
So this is
network.
So like yesterday Sonic was top inflows based on the data, and you can see here, it kind of like breaks it down nicely, like what's what's going on here. Obviously Ethereum and Solana, big ones, but top here, Base, Arbitrum, BSC, Avalanche, and of course you can break down here into other stuff, but I think that's pretty big, especially just seeing so much coming from Solana.
Yeah, that's huge. So much coming from Solana. Ethereum is just bleeding everywhere, it seems, but also I think Ethereum is an entry point for a lot of people just in general. What can we do with this information, dude? Should we be targeting more Solana people, you think?
I'm not sure.
How do you target Solana people?
It's a good question, because what I was going to say was we did actually see a little bit of Solana inflow when we had this last like little meme pop, I guess, earlier in the year. Actually did see a lot of people coming from Solana because they were like, what wallet do I download? They're not used to EVMs, so they're like, does Sonic have a wallet? Like, what do I do? Like, where do I buy it to get, but I think what it maybe is a stronger pull is that Solana DeFi is just, I mean, obviously there's protocols that have billions of dollars flowing through them, but the DeFi is still just so lacking, in my opinion. There's nothing innovative or interesting. Everything's like really low single digit yields. So I'm curious if what you're seeing is, people from Solana obviously saying, hey, there's great yield on Sonic, I'm going to move my funds there, my majors, I would be curious if, obviously you can move Solana via wormhole to Sonic. I mean, I wonder if it would actually, behoove like some of the protocols to try to get some traffic by, saying, hey, here's a S Solana pool or a Solana USDC pool. I know I would move it, having like a decent amount of Solana. I would be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to take it over to Sonic, same way I have my Bitcoin, my Ethereum, just continuing to play to trying to bring like liquidity over from like people's majors that are always, on the hunt for good yield.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just making it a little bit easier for Solana users to get in and to participate with existing assets. Seems like some free fees to me, but what do I know?
And then,
another thing I was curious
obviously, let's see. Follow Zone says Yeah, do Sol people even use DeFi? Yeah, that's the thing. There are people that are Solana whales that, you know, they would probably jump. I mean, you know, last time I looked around, it's like next to impossible to find anything over. You find something that's like 6-7% on your Solana, you're doing pretty good. You know, if you even told these guys they could make 20-30% yield on their Solana, they would probably bridge over in a heartbeat, or they would figure it out. So yeah, let's do that. Make some Solana pools, mostly for me, you know, because that would just be nice for me. But you know, I bet we get some of these other guys too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm sure we'll pull a couple of these pump funners over.
You know, also interesting that number 3 is base. As there's always a good bit of chatter on the timeline about Sonic versus base. So seeing a lot of money come in through there.
Interesting. Coming in through base as well. Well, I mean, that's also a good sign. It seems like a lot of this like meme overflow, because like base is like the other kind of like what tokenify everything.
Yeah. I forgot what the slogan was. It was like, yeah, tokenize everything or token everything, or you know what, it mint everything. I don't know. But we'll see, I guess. I mean, on the flip side, you can also see where the money is leaving. So how dare you? You're taking your money off the network. But
yeah,
this is interesting.
What are we going to do about this? How are we going to stop people from leaving for Arbitrum for some reason? What the hell's on Arbitrum?
I can't really wrap my head around it. I'm like, I mean, Arbitrum does have some good DeFi. I do play around on it a good bit, considering, but it is interesting where it's like, why is there so much outflow to Arbitrum? Is it just because it's, you know, you're moving stables and it's cheaper, you know, cheaper to move your Tether or your USDC and Ethereum? I don't know. Fiery, you do any, you do a lot of playing around on Arbitrum. Like, why do you think there's so much money moving there, even over Ethereum?
So, like, ETH can still make some sense, but I'm really, I have no idea what they're doing on Arbitrum. I hope they do. Like, I really hope they do. Maybe it's a misclick. Maybe there's restart of Arbitrum later. I'm just saying.
I'm looking at the figures here. But yeah, interesting to see that also the outflows go to Solana. I think that maybe that is coming into play where, you know, people are just, you know, liking moving between Sonic and Solana for their majors, for their stables. Just a theory. Like I said, I don't know any like really large reason. Now that's interesting.
Eunice is cracking off rampers use ARB for USDC and USDT. So it could just be people exiting crypto in totality, you know?
Or yeah, they're just using it as a fun, you know, it's kind of a joke of Arbitrum is like, you know, how it's like basically just a bridge for Hyperliquid. It's like, yeah, maybe it's just the path of least resistance when you're, you know, I mean, I know that's when I use Arbitrum. It usually is because I'm like, oh, I'm trying to, you know, easily move something between exchanges or whatever, you know?
Yeah. So it seems like Arbitrum is kind of replacing Ethereum in that place of like the middle ground, right? Like your intermediary bridge if you're moving from some like an alt to wherever, a centralized exchange or whatever. Interesting point. Now, let's talk a little bit more specifically about Sonic. Like who's succeeding on Sonic right now? Because I have this here. This is also from Louise here. The fees generated here. So once we get them in, all right, this is where they're going. This is where the fees are being generated. And I noticed a little error here on this. Metropolis has 51,000, but it's like not, it looks like it's like in, what's that, 2, 4, 6, 7th place or something. But it should
I think,
like,
yeah, that must mean, yeah, I see that. Yeah, that must mean 5,000, I would imagine. They must have been a typo.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's look at, I bet I can pull up DeFi Llama real fast and see.
Either way, I'm confident that Shadow's at the top with $142,000 in fees generated. Fiery, what is that? How does that make you feel? Do you guys have a lot of shadow in the DAO treasury?
Yeah, like the team has a decent exposure, but like the DAO doesn't per se. The DAO is farming a bit, but like not a significant amount.
Mm, interesting. It seems
But
like a lot of fees.
yeah, no
Previous
complaints.
compared to other dexes, would you say like in the history of Sonic, right? Like comparing it to say like Spooky Swap or whatever, are these fees comparable to what you would see in previous Sonic seasons?
So like there has never really been a previous Sonic season. It was a Phantom season, and back then the whole solidly model never existed, right? By the
Mhm.
time the model came out, the market just went down here. So we've never actually experienced a solidly fork getting major traction on this chain. If we compare to major players like Aerodrome, like we can actually justify such a fee, which can actually rise in the future, especially if S decides to cooperate, so to speak.
Mhm.
So having said that, this is doing pretty well, and the earlier dexes didn't really have a fee model in which the fee was this transparent or going to actual holders. So we never really knew with much consistency how the dexes were doing on the fee basis. It was all a grander tokenomic based model where no one was actually getting the generated value to its fullest amount, how it's working in Solidly. Shadow is doing that beautifully, and the team has been managing the decks well. So I'm happy to see it perform well, and I'm probably thinking it's going to do better in future, especially as we head towards the summit and more protocols decide to launch on the chain.
Oh, I love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, looking at the 7-day fees, I mean, that's pretty staggering. I mean, 600,000 basically. You know, coming up next is Beats with 147. But yeah, I mean, Swap X almost 100,000. These are really good fees for a dex for dexes. You know what I mean? That's a lot of value being passed on. The more volume the solidly model obviously gets, the more it gets passed on to holders basically. So definitely going to keep an eye on it. It's something I check often, just because it's it's an interesting shift where tokens used to kind of like display the value of a project in terms of the token price. I honestly think now we're entering kind of an era where protocol revenue is probably closer to being king now, in terms of, yes, like the token price might be one thing or the other, but if if the protocol is making a lot of revenue and that's getting moved, passed on to holders, I think that's probably like a stronger indicator, than necessarily even like the price of a token. If you're able to buy a token and you have like income that's coming in every single week and the protocol is generating a lot of revenue, I don't know. I feel like we're just seeing that kind of shift where that's becoming like a bigger talking point, is how can the protocol itself, what can it do to generate the most revenue? And I know Shadow does other things too. Like, they're like number 2 on the FEM dashboard. So they bring all their FEM money into, incentivizing pools. They got gems. They got all kinds of stuff. So I think it's a good approach.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've talked about it before, but like the shift to like revenue being like the primary focus for these things has been a long time coming. Because I mean, it's all business. They're all businesses. You got to have revenue. Like, what are we doing here? We're just speculating.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny if you think about it, where it's like, wow, it took like 10 years for people to care what a company's making in crypto. Yeah. It's funny when you think of it that way. But it's true though. It seems like it's just now, this last year or two, where people are like, look at how much revenue it's making. It's like, yeah, I mean, we probably should have been always looking at that, but we didn't.
Well, it's like, and it sounds really arrogant, especially because I'm like, I'm not old enough to be like these youngins, but like I feel like it's because a lot of these investors have been trained on like the last like 20 years of investing, where it's like buy Uber, even though Uber isn't making any money and isn't projected to make any money for 5 to 10 years, but then it's going to make a lot of money. So, buy it now. And that's kind of like what we're trading on, right?
I mean, it's like it's kind of like how the crypto cycles are just like parabolic compared to the stock market, right? So yeah, people are saying you go ahead and buy now, you're buying low. You just got to hold for like 15 years compared to crypto, where, it's like, excuse me, sir, I have not had my 100x yet, and it's been 2 months. When are we going to have that happen? We're going to have that happen soon, right?
Oh, yeah. People are addicted to the 100x's, and who knows how long they're going to stay, if they're even going to be here for much longer. I mean, I guess they will be. There probably always will be in crypto, dude, the 100x's. Because I don't think these memes will go away.
Nah, there will always be that kind of stuff, but I think that we are seeing like there's a lot of people that, especially when the market was first heating up, would say like, this is your last run to make it. And I don't agree with that, but I do understand the sentiment of we have kind of like, I mean, I think we're already kind of out of that era. People talk about 100x now. Last run, it was 1,000x was what you were trying to hit. And I think we're going to see that keep shifting where, hey, I made, 50x, 30x. That was pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts on that, Fiery?
Even a 2x is good, to be honest. It's not about just hitting a few x's, It's not like it's a multiple checkbox kind of situation. Hey, how many do I want? Hey, let's range it from like 10 to 100. So optimistically speaking, we all try to hit some shit points at times. But more so, it's that we have to realize that it's a cycle. So if we are in the correct time zone, if we're at the correct time and entering the market, seeing that time with right, then we have a much larger chance of doing that. So for example, earlier in the day, back in 2020, this is March 2020, the worst of the worst, right? So like the MCLB Discord is quite lit. People are active. And that is when we are actually trying to buy Phantom. So we saw a 500x on Phantom in that cycle. Now, of course, having seen that and having sold at that point is entirely different thing, right? So even when people say they want to hit 100x, they want to hit 1,000x, it doesn't matter if you really hit it. Will you really be able to sell at the right time? Like, when do you know 100x will stop at 100x, right? So at the end of the day, it's always a gamble when you are treating it as 100x or 1,000x. But if you invest in the right things, if you invest in the correct tech, and you are lucky with timing, you may just get your 100x without having to take on that additional risk. So for example, like Phantom is still over 100x from that point where we bought, right? So speaking of that, it will get harder as we move on with time, because like it's just so much technology and tools, bro. Like AI has been a game changer, and even before AI, as more people enter the ecosystem, more people try to derive the value, it'll get harder, it'll get much more competitive. The ICOs, they phased out because everyone will just try to rush in at the first block, right? So it's just been getting harder each time. The airdrops are getting worse, not just in like the amount in US dollars which you get, but the amount of stuff they have you do. Like they may just ask you to KYC your mom at the end of the day.
Give your bank
we don't
statement.
believe you. That's the name. Yeah, we don't believe you. That's the name, bruh. Get your mom on camera and tell her. So it's getting absurd. People are not willing to work for airdrops anymore because they have no guarantee at the end of the day they'll get anything.
No, it's very true. I mean, it's and that's kind of what I mean too by like, we're seeing 1,000x, 100x. We're seeing that phase out more as like things change in the market and it gets harder.
We had that entire AI agent virtual ecosystem blow up, and people saw 100x's. It was like 100x here, 100x there, but never the 100x in the token you bought, right? So it's always you hear those stories.
Well, it's also like you say. I mean, I think people get that high from like, you. I'm sure to anyone that's watching this has probably had this at least happen once, where you could have cashed out and you rode it all the way back down. I mean, I always tell people it's like, like at least like make a plan for scaling or something, so that at least you get some of your profit out. I mean, because I mean, everybody's probably done that at some point where, you're like, oh, it's 100x, it's going to keep going. It's 200x, I'm going to keep going. And then next thing you know, it's dropped 20%. You're going, I mean, it's going to, it's just a pullback. And then, by the time you're done, you're at your buying price or less. So, I mean, I think that's hard because then the next thing you know, you're chasing that forever, where you're like, well, when it happens again, I'm going to do it right. So, I mean, it is, we have we definitely have like a dopamine problem, whether it's, you can't stop scrolling through X or the charts or, whatever. It's turned us all into like, thrill jockeys or whatever,
Well, I feel like it's just like a very normal thing. It's just same as like going to like the casino, like when you win like a couple hands, then you're like, oh, I'm hot, I gotta stay in, But like it is like it's like very emotionally driven. If the best advice you could ever receive here, I'm about to give it to you right now. If you want to win in trading, and I'm telling you this as someone who's a big loser in trading, okay, is that you want to be a cold, heartless, mathematical cyborg, right? Like Dracula saying, you want to have a plan for getting out, and you want to say, I don't. The best post I ever saw about this was a guy who said, buy into a meme coin, it's up 5x, sell everything, delete the Telegram from my chat, block the Twitter account, and mute the alert on next screener. I never want to see that token ever again. In that you don't want to have that feeling of like, oh man, I missed out on this or that, because that's an illusion. The reality is if you cashed out the 5x, you made an insane return on your money. And,
compared to the traditional market for sure.
The problem is we don't have enough money to start with, so 5x ain't cutting it.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the factor where people just keep on, and once they hit enough, then they just, even when they have enough to move ahead in life, just shut this field down. Just because they've won enough times and gotten there, they feel they can do more, right?
Yeah.
So that's how the never-ending cycle starts, and that's how you end up 11 years into the field on a show called GMSONIC.
That's right. You end up here talking to us. But I think that's pretty much all we had today. I was gonna share your X in case anyone wanted to follow you. Thanks for coming on. It's at dev_enjoys, and look, he's following me, so I'm following him. It's just huge alpha to follow Fiery.
Thank you for having me here. So it's been a real pleasure, especially talking to everyone just a week before the Sonic Summit starts.
Summit's coming, everybody. Get ready. Hopefully you're going. And thanks again, Fiery. We'll catch you next time.
We'll have some F-bomb merch at the summit. Catch it.
Okay. Get an F-bomb shirt at the summit, and remember to scream I have an F-bomb in the streets.
And not wear it on your way back, and not wear it on your way back at the airport. I'm just saying.
All right, man. We'll take it easy.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Fiery. And the one last thing I wanted to say. Well, I got two things I want to say before we sign off. Is there's another opportunity I wanted to bring to your attention in the Sonic community if you're unaware. Sonic game gems, so you can earn gems by playing these games: Sakura, S4, Fate Adventure, Yoko Live.
Man, I know you're excited for that, for your S4.
Oh yeah, we never talked about Yoko Live though. We got to check this out.
We're going to check that out. Yeah.
And then also, I want to plug our Telegram.
Yeah.
Join our Telegram, GMSONIC Breakfast Club. Drac and I will be in there, along with all of you guys, hopefully. And we'll be talking about like stuff about the show before the show, like what we're going to be talking about. Also, all the stuff we can't talk about on the show. We just want to make it like a community space. You got questions, pop in there. You got suggestions, pop in there. You just want to hang out, pop in there, you know?
Chicken
Yeah.
jockey.
Yeah, we've been asked a long time about like, you know, do we have a Discord? Do we have a Telegram? So, yeah, you know, we're going to try to get that built up. It would be cool if, you know, we get a bunch of people in there, can discuss all things Sonic and the show. And we get enough people in there. Maybe we'll like, you know, have it pulled up while we're streaming, you know, answer questions, talk, whatever. So, yeah, make sure to join our Telegram, GMSONIC Breakfast Club. And we will see you Friday. It's almost summit time.
Oh, yeah. See you Friday. And then in Vienna. Adios, folks.
GMSONIC is Corval and Dracula Presley. GM.